Chief Researcher Zixanax adjusted his third sensory appendage and stared at the holographic mission brief floating before the assembled team. His gelatinous form quivered with what his species considered excitement, though to any human observer it would have looked like a giant purple jellyfish having a seizure. "Fellow researchers of the Galactic Wildlife Protection Agency," he burbled through his translator, "we stand at the precipice of what might be the most significant xenobiological study of the decade." The translator rendered his natural clicking sounds into standard galactic common, though it couldn't quite hide the tremor in his voice. Around the briefing chamber, the other 5 members of his elite research team shifted in their various environmental suits. Dr. Kleepop, the team's behavioral specialist, extended her crystalline structures in a gesture of acknowledgement. Professor Wobble, as the others called him due to their inability to pronounce his real name, absorbed the information through his gaseous form. "Our target," Zixanax continued, bringing up a holographic image of a blue-green planet, "is designation Sol 3, locally known as Earth. Our long-range scans have detected something unprecedented, a Class 12 Deathworld that somehow supports not just one but multiple apex predator species living in close proximity." Dr. Meekill, the team's biological systems analyst, extruded her eye stalks in shock. "Surely that's impossible, Chief. The statistical probability of multiple apex predators coexisting without devastating population collapse is approximately 0.0000374%, chimed in Lieutenant Squish, their mathematical modeling expert, his translucent body flashing with calculations. "Yet our scans are quite clear." Zixanax manipulated the holographic controls with 3 of his tentacles, bringing up initial sensor readings. The chamber filled with gasps, and in Professor Wobble's case, a startled release of methane, as the biological signatures danced across their visual receptors. "These readings must be wrong." Dr. Kleepop crystallized her thoughts literally, her facets reflecting the holographic light. "The energy expenditure alone should make this ecosystem unsustainable. And look at these predator-to-prey ratios." "That's why we're here," Zixanax said, his color shifting to a more authoritative shade of purple. "The Galactic Council needs to understand how this planet functions. The implications for xenobiological science are staggering." Lieutenant Commander Blorp, their security specialist, oozed forward. "Chief, I must express concerns about the safety protocols. If these readings are accurate, we're looking at predator species that would rate Class 8 or higher on the galactic threat scale." "Your concerns are noted, LC Blorp," Zixanax acknowledged, his tentacles weaving patterns of reassurance. "That's why we'll be maintaining full cloaking protocols and observing strictly from our ship's safety. We're scientists, not adventurers." The holographic display shifted to show their mission parameters, casting the room in an eerie blue glow. "We'll begin with standard observation protocols in one of their populated zones. Our primary objective is to document the predator species and their interactions. Secondary objective is to understand how this ecosystem hasn't collapsed into total chaos." "And if we encounter the dominant species," Professor Wobble wafted anxiously. "The humans?" Zixanax's color darkened slightly. "Long-range observations suggest they're relatively harmless herbivores who've somehow achieved spacefaring technology. They'll be the least of our concerns compared to the apex predators we're here to study. If only they knew how wrong that assumption would prove to be." "Final equipment check, everyone," Zixanax announced. "Ensure your environmental suits are rated for Class 12 atmospheric conditions. Remember, this planet is so hostile, it has corrosive dihydrogen monoxide literally falling from the sky." He paused for dramatic effect. "We depart in one planetary rotation. May the great cosmic probability function be in our favor." As the team dispersed to their preparation duties, none of them noticed that their initial scans had missed one crucial detail. Every single one of those apex predator signatures was registered as domesticated. The research vessel Scientific Curiosity hovered silently above what their databases identified as a suburban residential zone, its cloaking systems rendering it completely invisible to Earth's primitive detection technologies. The morning sun cast long shadows across the meticulously maintained rectangles of green vegetation that surrounded each dwelling structure. Chief Researcher Zixanax monitored the sensor readings with growing concern. His gelatinous form had taken on a sickly yellowish tinge. "This can't be right," he muttered, his tentacles dancing across the holographic interface. These predator signatures are coming from inside the human habitats. Dr. Klepop's crystalline structure chimed anxiously as she reviewed the data. Chief, I'm detecting at least one apex predator signature in approximately 67.3% of these dwellings. The humans appear to be cohabitating with them. Impossible, Lieutenant Commander Blorp gurgled, his protective blob rippling with disbelief. No sentient species would willingly share their living space with Class 8 predators. The humans must be keeping them as prisoners. Professor Wobble condensed nervously near the viewing portal. Movement detected in Sector 4. A human is emerging from one of the structures. The entire research team clustered around the observation window, their various appendages and sensory organs straining for a better view. Through their ship's enhanced imaging systems, they watched as a human female exited one of the identical-looking structures, but what emerged behind her caused Lieutenant Squish to spontaneously divide into two quivering masses of anxiety. By the sacred laws of mathematical probability, both halves of Lieutenant Squish squeaked in unison. Is that a Canis lupus variant? The creature that accompanied the human stood nearly to her waist, muscled and powerful, with gleaming teeth that could crush bones. According to their scans, its bite force exceeded that of many of their own world's most feared predators. Observe the restraint apparatus, Dr. Meikle noted, her eye stalks twisting in fascination. The human has some sort of control mechanism attached to the beast. They watched in horror as the human suddenly released tension on the restraint. The massive predator bounded forward, and the entire research team braced for the inevitable carnage. But instead of attacking, the creature simply retrieved a small projectile the human had thrown and returned it, tail appendage oscillating in what their behavioral algorithms identified as joy. Chief, Dr. Klepop's voice resonated with confusion. I believe the creature is engaging in some form of recreational activity with the human. Zixanax's color shifted rapidly between purple and green. New working theory. These humans must possess some form of mind control capabilities we haven't detected. That's the only logical explanation for this behavior. The situation grew even more bewildering as they observed the human bend down and press her face against the predators, making high-pitched vocalizations their translators rendered as, "Who's a good boy? You are, yes you are." Did that human just expose its most vulnerable body parts to an apex predator's primary weapon systems? Elsie Blorp oozed backwards in shock, and the creature responded by applying its tongue to the human's face. Professor Wobble had to release another anxiety-induced methane burst before he could respond. Perhaps this is some form of dominance ritual, the human allowing the beast to taste its next meal. Records incoming, Dr. Meikle announced, her eye stalks now tied in knots. According to our database connection to their internet, this creature is classified as a good boy and appears to be something called a golden retriever. The team watched in stunned silence as three more humans emerged from nearby structures, each accompanied by their own variations of these good boy predators. The creatures began engaging in what appeared to be complex social interactions, while their human companions exchanged verbal communications. Log this, Zixanax ordered, his tentacles trembling. First contact observation suggests humans have achieved complete behavioral control over multiple apex predator species through unknown means. Exercise extreme caution. Also, he paused, watching as one of the smaller humans wrapped its arms around its accompanying beast in what their cultural database identified as a hug. Request immediate peer review of our classification of humans as herbivores. I'm beginning to suspect we may have made a terrible miscalculation. The Scientific Curiosity's observation log was becoming increasingly concerning as the Earth Day progressed. Chief Researcher Zixanax had started stress-shedding his outer membrane while reviewing Dr. Klepop's latest behavioral analysis reports. Another anomaly detected, Professor Wobble announced, his gaseous form condensing with stress. There appears to be a dwelling containing multiple small apex predators of the Felis catus variety. The human inhabitant refers to them as kitties. The team gathered around the viewing screens, watching in horrified fascination as their sensors revealed a human female surrounded by no fewer than 6 lethal predators. These creatures, according to their database, possessed razor-sharp retractable claws, enhanced night vision, and hunting capabilities that would classify them as perfect killing machines. Look at their behavior pattern. Dr. Mahikil's eye stalks twisted in confusion. The largest predator is deliberately presenting its vulnerable abdominal region to the human while making some sort of rhythmic vibration. According to Earth's data networks, this is called purring, Lieutenant Squish reported, having finally reintegrated himself after his earlier split. And the behavior is labeled as requesting belly rubs. This contradicts everything we know about predator psychology. The observation became even more disturbing when they witnessed the humans speaking to these creatures in what their cultural database identified as baby talk. The mighty hunters responded by rubbing against her legs and making demanding vocalizations for something called treats. New target acquired, LC Blorp announced suddenly, his protective blob rippling with alarm. Western Quadrant structure designated pet store. The team redirected their sensors and collectively recoiled. Behind transparent barriers, humans had imprisoned dozens of different predator species, but in a way that made no logical sense. Young humans pressed their faces against the barriers, pointing at deadly creatures and making excited squealing sounds. Recording, Zixanax narrated, his color shifting to a nauseated green. The humans appear to be operating some sort of predator distribution center, but instead of showing appropriate fear, they're calling everything cute and adorable. Dr. Klepop's crystalline structure vibrated with distress as she logged each new observation. Chief, I've documented humans keeping constrictor snakes as noodle babies, referring to birds of prey as feathered friends, and, by the cosmic probability function, one human has modified their living space to accommodate an entire colony of arachnids they call spooder babies. The linguistic diminutives they apply to these creatures are most disturbing, Professor Wobble noted, releasing another stress-induced methane cloud. They seem to deliberately infantilize some of the most efficient killing machines on their planet. The situation reached a new level of incomprehensible when their sensors detected a human child approaching what their database identified as a Panthera leo cub. The research team watched in paralyzed horror as the small human fearlessly handled the apex predator, bottle-feeding it while making the same high-pitched vocalizations they'd observed earlier. This defies all rational explanation, Lieutenant Squish muttered, his calculations becoming increasingly erratic. The humans aren't controlling these creatures through any technology we can detect. They appear to be forming genuine emotional bonds with them. Zixanax's tentacles trembled as he dictated his latest log entry. Day 1, Hour 8. Working theory about human mind control capabilities requires revision. Evidence suggests humans may possess an even more terrifying ability, the power to form symbiotic relationships with virtually any predator species through what they call love and snuggles. The implications are beyond disturbing. The final straw came when they observed a human residence containing what Dr. Mahikil classified as a murder menagerie, a combination of predator species that should have resulted in immediate bloodshed. Instead, they witnessed a dog, 3 cats, a ferret, and a large constrictor snake, all peacefully coexisting while their human referred to them as their babies. Update the threat assessment, LC Blorp demanded, his protective coating secreting anxiety bubbles. Any species capable of turning apex predators into willing companions must be capable of unimaginable feats. The humans aren't the prey species we assumed them to be. They're something far more dangerous. Dr. Klepop's final database entry for the day simply read, "The humans have achieved what no other known species has managed. They've weaponized cuteness. May the universe have mercy on us all." As the Earth's sun began to set, the research team huddled together in their observation room, watching as humans everywhere returned to their dwellings to cuddle with their converted predators. None of them slept that night, their various physiologies trembling at the implications of what they'd witnessed. And they still hadn't seen the worst of it. Tomorrow was Take Your Pet to the Park Day. Chief Researcher Zixanax and his team huddled in their cloaked observation vessel, hovering above what their sensors identified as a suburban backyard. The scene unfolding below them would haunt their species' collective nightmares for generations to come. Recording commenced, Dr. Klepop announced, her crystalline structure vibrating with barely contained panic. "We appear to be witnessing some form of human cultural ritual designated as a birthday party, multiple juvenile humans present, current predator count, sweet probability functions, 17 different apex hunters." The backyard had been decorated with colorful streamers and balloons, which their cultural database suggested was meant to celebrate another year of a young human's survival. The irony of this was not lost on the research team as they watched the small humans running and tumbling with various predator species. Lieutenant Commander Blorp's protective coating had developed stress-induced polka dots. "Chief, are you seeing this? The juvenile humans appear to be using a fully grown mastiff as a riding beast. The predator is allowing this willingly." The massive dog, which their sensors indicated could easily crush bones with its jaws, was indeed letting 3 small humans clamber over its back while wearing what appeared to be a party hat. Its tail wagged with such force that it created small windstorms in their sensor readings. "Focus recording devices on social grouping in Sector 3, Professor Wobble gasped, releasing a particularly pungent cloud of nervous gas. The team shifted their attention to where a group of adult humans were gathered around what they had initially assumed was a security perimeter. Instead, they discovered it was something called a petting zoo. Dr. Meikle's eye stalks became so tangled that Lieutenant Squish had to help her unknot them. "The humans have constructed a temporary containment facility, but they're deliberately placing their young inside with multiple species of predators." They watched in horror as human children entered the enclosure to interact with animals that, according to their database, ranked from Class 5 to Class 8 on the galactic threat scale. The young humans proceeded to feed, pet, and even hug creatures that could have easily terminated their existence. "New audio input," Lieutenant Squish reported, his form quivering so badly he was at risk of splitting again. "The humans are using some form of high-pitched communication with the predators. Beginning translation." The ship's speakers filled with sounds that made Zixanax's tentacles curl in distress. "Oh, who's the sweetest whittle murder machine? You are, yes you are. Does the mighty hunter want a belly scratch? Does the fearsome predator want some num-nums?" "This can't be natural," Professor Wobble theorized, his gaseous form swirling with agitation. "No species would deliberately infantilize apex predators unless they were so far up the food chain that apex predators were merely amusing to them," Dr. Kleepop finished, her crystalline surface cracking slightly with stress. The situation reached critical levels when the birthday celebration's centerpiece was revealed. The humans had prepared what their database identified as a cake, but the decorative theme caused the entire research team to require immediate medication. "They've created an artistic representation of something called a dinosaur," L.C. Blorp reported, his blob form nearly liquefying with shock. "According to Earth's historical records, these were some of the most dangerous predators to ever exist on their planet. The humans have turned them into cartoon characters for their young." The team watched as the children cheered at the sight of the fearsome predator rendered in frosting, their natural reaction to such a creature completely inverted from any sane species response. But the true horror was yet to come. "Chief," Dr. Meikle called out, her voice trembling, "long-range sensors are picking up approach signatures. The humans appear to be arriving with additional predators for something called puppy playdate time." Zixanax's color drained to a pale lavender as he watched more humans arriving, each bringing their own converted predator companions. The backyard soon filled with a mix of what their database identified as dogs, cats, ferrets, and even a rehabilitated hawk that one human child referred to as Mr. Flappy. "Update threat assessment," Zixanax dictated, his tentacles shaking so badly they could barely operate the controls. "Humans are not, as previously classified, a Class 3 herbivorous species with tool use. Evidence suggests they are a Class 12 apex species with the ability to subvert and convert any predator they encounter through unknown means. Their young are trained from birth to view deadly creatures as sources of entertainment and affection." The research team huddled together as they continued to document the party. They watched as children played a game called Fetch with multiple predator species simultaneously, the deadly creatures all cooperating in a display that defied every known law of nature. The adults supervised while casually sharing something called Punch and discussing their plans to visit something called a kitten sanctuary later that week. Final notation, Dr. Klepop chimed weakly. The humans do not simply coexist with predators. They do not merely domesticate them. They actively seek out the most dangerous species they can find and transform them into what they call precious fur babies. There is no logical explanation for this behavior except one. Humans are themselves such apex predators that they view all other predatory species as potential pets. The team's collective revelation was interrupted by a sound that would feature in their nightmares forever. The birthday child had just announced it was time for group cuddles with all the assembled predators. Prepare emergency evacuation protocols, Zixanax ordered, his gelatinous form nearly transparent with fear. Any species that can turn a pack of wolves into something called doggos is too dangerous for continued observation. No one argued with the order. They had seen enough. Somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of the Galactic Wildlife Protection Agency, a new classification was about to be created just for Earth. Warning, capable of weaponized cuteness. The scientific curiosity's engines hummed nervously as they approached what their sensors identified as a major metropolitan area. After the horrors of the birthday party, the research team had agreed to one final observation mission before returning to file their report with the Galactic Council. None of them expected what they were about to discover. Multiple predator signatures detected, Lieutenant Squish announced, his form vibrating with increasing frequency. Concentrated readings from that large structure. Database identifies it as a pet store. He said the last two words as if they physically pained him. Chief Researcher Zixanax's gelatinous form had been stuck in a sickly green color for the past several hours. Magnification on main viewing screen. Let's see what fresh horrors these humans have devised. The sight that greeted them caused Professor Wobble to release such a massive cloud of distress methane that they had to temporarily shut down 3 secondary sensor arrays. Inside the building, humans were engaged in what appeared to be some kind of predator commerce. They're selling apex predators like common trade goods. Dr. Klepop's crystalline structure chimed in horror. Look at the signage. Buy one kitty, get one free. They're treating Class 7 predators like some sort of commodity. Dr. Meekle's eye stalks twisted into a pretzel shape as she monitored the internal security feeds. Chief, you need to see this. The humans have created specialized sections for different predator species. They're marketing them based on cuteness ratings. But it was L.C. Blorp who made the discovery that would ultimately break their collective scientific resolve. New structure detected 2 kilometers east. Designation, City Zoo. Purpose, unknown, but predator signatures are off the charts. The research vessel shifted position, maintaining its cloak as they approached the new location. What they found there would require centuries of therapy to process. This can't be real, Zixanax burbled, his tentacles coiling in shock. They've created some sort of predator exhibition facility. They're displaying Class 10 and above creatures for entertainment. They watched in mounting horror as human families strolled casually past enclosures containing species that could shred battle cruisers. Children pressed their faces against protective barriers, making excited sounds at creatures that could swallow them whole. Chief, Professor Wobble wafted urgently, you need to see this. Sector 7, the large cat enclosure. The team focused their observation devices on what appeared to be a human juvenile entering a secured area with a Panthera tigris cub. The sensors picked up the conversation between the young human and what appeared to be a zookeeper. Now remember, the adult human was saying, hold the bottle at a 45-degree angle. Tigers like their formula warm, and don't forget to burp her afterward. Lieutenant Squish spontaneously divided into 3 quivering masses of horror. They're treating an apex predator like a human infant. This goes beyond domestication. This is madness, Dr. Klepop finished, her crystalline structure developing hairline cracks from stress. Complete and utter madness. The final breaking point came when their sensors detected a new event starting in the zoo's central area. A sign announced, interactive predator experience, pet a python, cuddle a cougar, high-five a hyena. Emergency protocol Omega 9. Zixanax screeched, his color shifting through every shade of panic his species was capable of displaying. Initiate immediate evacuation. Any species capable of turning the galaxy's deadliest predators into interactive entertainment is too dangerous to study. As the scientific curiosity's engines powered up for emergency departure, Dr. Mhikil made one final terrifying entry in the ship's log. Conclusion. Humans are not simply another spacefaring species. They are a Class X civilization capable of converting any predatory species into what they call adorable babies. Their power appears to stem from an incomprehensible ability to find deadly creatures cute and a complete absence of normal survival instincts. May the cosmic probability function protect us if they ever discover our worlds and decide our species would make awesome pets. The research vessel broke orbit at maximum speed, leaving behind a planet where the most terrifying creatures in the galaxy were being bottle-fed, cuddled, and called precious little snuggle muffins by the one species too powerful to fear them. In the years that followed, the Galactic Wildlife Protection Agency would establish a permanent quarantine zone around Earth, not to protect the humans from outside threats, but to protect the galaxy from a species that could turn any predator into a companion with the power of belly rubs and treats. The Galactic Council's emergency session chamber had never been so quiet. The assembled representatives from 1,000 worlds stared in stunned silence at the holographic display showing Chief Researcher Zixanax's final report. His gelatinous form, still stuck in various shades of trauma-induced pastels, quivered before them. Honorable Council members, Zixanax began, his tentacles trembling, our research mission to Earth has revealed a threat level unprecedented in galactic history. The humans are not, as previously classified, a simple Class 3 civilization of herbivorous tool users. They are something far more terrifying. The display shifted to show recordings from their mission. Dr. Kleepop, her crystalline structure still showing stress fractures, operated the controls, while Professor Wobble provided narration through a specialized methane-to-speech translator. As you can see, Wobble wafted anxiously, the humans have achieved something we previously thought impossible. They have turned the galaxy's most lethal predators into what they call pets, a term that roughly translates to beloved companion who receives treats and belly rubs. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the footage showed humans casually interacting with species that most civilizations would nuke from orbit rather than approach. Lieutenant Squish, who had finally managed to reintegrate into a single mass, provided the statistical analysis. Our calculations indicate that humans have a 97.3% success rate in converting any predatory species into a companion through a process they call adoption. They appear to be completely immune to normal survival instincts, instead experiencing something called squee when confronted with deadly creatures. Elsie Blorp's protective coating had developed a permanent nervous tic as he presented the security implications. The humans have constructed vast networks of facilities they call pet stores and zoos, where they deliberately collect and display apex predators, but most disturbing of all, they are actively breeding new variations of these creatures for maximum, what they call cuteness. Dr. Mihikil's eye stalks, still partially knotted from stress, projected the team's official recommendations. We formally request that Earth be classified as an extreme danger zone, with a level X quarantine. Additionally, humans must be added to the list of incomprehensibly dangerous species, with a special notation regarding their ability to weaponize adorableness. The council chamber erupted in concerned murmuring. The head counselor, a being of pure energy, flickered anxiously. And your professional recommendation for future research missions to Earth? Zixanax's color shifted to a resolute purple. The entire research team has unanimously decided to transfer to the Space Vegetation Studies Department. We will spend the remainder of our careers documenting different types of moss. The most aggressive thing moss does is grow slowly, and after what we've seen, that's all the excitement we can handle. The final log entry, displayed in glowing letters above the council chamber, would become legendary in the annals of xenobiological research. Let it be known that Earth is not dangerous because of its predators, but because of the species that views those predators as precious babies. Any civilization capable of turning wolves into puppers, big cats into kitties, and prehistoric murder lizards into children's entertainment is too powerful to risk contact with. We officially recommend all future research be conducted from a minimum safe distance of one solar system, preferably while hiding behind a large moon. As the council voted unanimously to approve the quarantine measure, somewhere on Earth, a human was teaching a great white shark to do tricks for fish treats, another was knitting sweaters for venomous snakes, and a child was asking their parents if they could have a pet lion because it's so fluffy. The galaxy would never be the same, and the Space Vegetation Studies Department had never received so many transfer requests in a single day.